are all trying to, whether you're talking on a spiritual plane or whatever plane you're talking about, but you're always trying to achieve the next level of yourself. To so sort of put you in a challenge and just see, what else you can do. How many notches can I get in my belt, or that kind of deal. And they say that most people really achieve the art of fulfillment in their later years, because now it goes from the science of achievement where I am now, and this might sound like I'm bragging, but it's like right now I'm 100% in the whole concept of creating what I've gathered for 62 years. It's time for me to create a way that I know can take me to a place where I impact more people.
Welcome to episode 18 of the podcast, Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. I'm Craig A. Jackman, along with Matthew Hollis, and we are so glad to have you with us today. And you know what? We're just going to go ahead and dive right into episode 18. So Robert, Matt, welcome.
Hey guys, welcome back, Dad.
Yeah.
Hey,
welcome back.
To the
Boy,
United
talk
States.
About a great weekend you just had.
Yeah, right. It was awesome. So hello, Craig, and hello, Matt. Yeah, we just got back from Cabo, company that I'm affiliate with, a super affiliate with, gave us a free trip to Cabo. I believe it was 5 days, 4 nights, and
oh my goodness,
and all expenses paid. And on top of that, they gave us $2,000 for air flights and $2,000 for spending money. So it was called the Grand Fiesta in Cabo San Lucas, and it was
That's
like
cool.
we actually went on a couple of excursions. One of them was a party boat, a giant party boat that had 200 people on it, and it was 2 levels. And so the mellow people hung out in the lower deck, and the ones that are up on top are going bananas. But there was I guess Cabo is known for their sunsets, and how once it goes down, it just like constantly makes this forever. So we're like one of probably 40 boats that were all out in the bay, the Cabo Bay.
Oh,
and
wow.
and just
Did you
sitting
see like
out
the
there,
arch
and every one of them,
sunset?
yeah, they were at the Ark. They were at the Ark,
Mhm.
and then we went around the Ark, and where the private beaches are and all the other resorts. It was phenomenal. Great food, and it was just fun. And the attitude of everybody was really, really unique. It's like everyone like is like mentally resetting, because it's like everyone doesn't know what's going on, but everybody wants to have a better life, so the people that were, probably people that have made good money in this company, you had to really, really be like 100K or 250K, which would be like $10,000 to $25,000 a month to even like get on this trip, or have it paid for. And so, yeah, it was really, really fun, because a lot of people were just in the mental thought where, hey, listen, there's, like I've said before, if there's 10% of the people that want to change their lives, or even if there's 5% of the people in the world that want to change their lives, that's still a big number.
It's
So
huge.
it was
Millions,
just,
hundreds
yeah,
of millions. Yeah.
So, why would you want to hang around a bunch of people that didn't want to do anything with their lives?
And
Well,
like
that's
you've
the thing.
always said, you are who you hang around. So
I mean,
yeah,
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You took it right from me.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah,
Right,
and
no.
I want to personally thank you both for, Terry and I went out and knew that there was a couple of videos I've been watching recently of Charlie Munger. I've been sharing it with you guys. So,
Mhm.
now that he's gone, everybody's sort of like, hey, maybe this guy had some wisdom. So there's been a bunch of people that have put in some of his best clips together, right? And I ran into one today, and he says, I ask a person 2 questions. So only 2 I ask is well, he did it like in 3 parts. The first thing that he said, if you didn't show up for work, would the job that you used to do, will it get done? And he said he was just addressing to people what their value was really worth,
Mhm.
and he says, so if you don't show up to do your job, Do you think that the company that employed you is smart enough to hire someone to do the job that you're doing? So immediately just ripped you out of no certainty, no security, no nothing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then the second thing he said, and if you're a business owner, which I highly advise, he said if you didn't show up for your company, would it maintain? And then he said, so now you guys know where I'm going from. So
Yeah.
to stop on the second one, Terry and I take some time off and go and enjoy a trip that we earned. And Matthew and Craig are running everything that we do during the week, and it runs perfectly. Now, here's the last one that he asked. He said, if you weren't in your company, would it grow without you? And he said, most people go yes to the one. Yes, I'd be replaced immediately. Secondly, no, I don't think my company would maintain if I was there. And he said the third one usually is always no. And he's going, do you understand for life to be what you truly need it to be? All you need to do all day is focus on number 3.
Mm.
All you need to do every day is, he says, focus on what has to happen for your business to grow without you participating. And he said, me and Warren figured it out. It's like, why not just buy companies that already have an executive team that has already made the company grow year after year, quarter after quarter? I'm like, damn, you know. And then I'll give you just a couple of ones because I just thought it was
Please.
funny. He says, don't you guys find it interesting that people know how to do better than Berkshire Hathaway? They can actually get you a 300% return on the stock market. If you don't believe me, just buy their book.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he goes, or buy their course. And he's going, I don't know of one person that increases their earnings 5 to 10% a year that is writing books and doing courses.
I mean, that's the thing. You become who you hang around, like we were even talking about earlier. And if you get in and I've succumbed to this and even shared about it, but like if you get yourself more in a zone of trying to teach and less in a zone of like trying to do the thing that you're teaching, you're gonna like slowly but surely, I think at least this is the way it works for me. Like I get further and further away from the fundamentals because I'm not practicing them, and I'm also not practicing getting better and evolving. Like the stuff you shared with Robert Greene, like all those videos, I watched all those too, on mastery and everything. And it just is another reminder that it's like, fuck, if I just get out of my own way and allow myself to be creative with what I want to do, that's where, like you said with Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, that's where that comes from. You have to have a creative mind to go, oh, this is the way to do it because this is what I want. And it's like, you just don't ask yourself when he says the journaling thing, right? You don't ask yourself enough what you want.
Right.
So,
and then you don't trust I love where he said, as well as, you know, if it is really true, and we know that it is, that, you know, that 400 trillion to 1 chances of you being alive at this moment as you're watching this video. And then to also immediately go, wow, I have DNA that no one has had before me or ever will after me. And it was funny, Matt, that you were talking about the
right.
DNA. And I find myself a number of times in my life trying to teach people what I do. And I've helped a lot of people create incredible income, but I really never have duplicated myself because they're not me. They're not my DNA. And so it was this constant thing that I love, this concept of, okay, how would you solve this problem? It allows you to be able to go to yourself, go to a higher consciousness, you know what I mean? You know, plug into the light or whatever you want to call it, the master creator, and go, listen, my journey is my journey, and I need to do the things that I need to do at the point that I need to do them. And And all you're doing is going, so how can we get here? How can we get here? So my thought is like, I love that for years that I've always been involved in a business model that allows people, I get to assist them and help them, but they still have to become the best person they can be, the
Mhm.
wonderful becoming. You know what I mean? They really got to hone in on the thing that gives them most joy. And it even switched my mind in another way. I want to expand your guys' mind because I was really thinking of my wife, Terry, right?
Right.
And she's constantly challenging herself on being more than she is. But what if her goals when I first met her and we went to a big 5-day seminar to write down your goals, right? And her goals was really, really simple. It's like I want to be married, I want to have a family, and I want to take care of my husband and my kids. So if that's what my wife has always been focused on, and that was her dream even maybe before I met her, did I become part of her reality? Did the universe or
Mhm.
whatever the hell you want to believe in goes, this is all she needs, and wham, I get sucked into her vortex because
I was just gonna bring up Abraham Hicks when you were
yeah,
talking
I
about
get
that.
sucked into her vortex because I'm the helium balloon. It
Yep.
just took her to grab a hold of the string and go, I'm gonna hang on to this one. And then
Yeah.
she gets to take care of her sons. She gets to take care of her animals. She gets to take care of the stuff that she loves to take care of because that's where she's designed as far as her puzzle. So I always look at, people that find quote unquote the perfect mate. And then you'll run around someone like me and they'll turn around and say to me, well, if Terry wasn't in your life, then somebody else would be. And I always say, I don't know if I believe that shit. I just really don't because I've met a lot of couples and she's like perfect for me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like this
The yin
coexistence that
yang.
we have. Yeah.
Like that's yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what are
It's
your guys' thoughts
it's
on that?
interesting, Robert, that you
Yeah.
bring this up because I was thinking as you were saying the Abraham Hicks vortex situation is, and the fact that you have to rely on yourself to find what it is that you want. What is in your vortex? What aligns with you? I think that is so important. And that's where people start, especially when they hear outside input. Does it
Right.
align with what you think or what you believe or how you want to live your life? If it doesn't, and it doesn't feel good, then why do they still go in that direction? Maybe because even others are saying, oh, you're going to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to
Oh
do this.
yeah. All
It's
the outside influences and expectations that we have. You know what I
right.
mean? It's like we don't take the time, and all of us should take the time to constantly think about what would give us the most joy, the most
Oh,
peace,
there we are.
the most because that's where the overthinker beats us up. It's like, I love sharpening pencils. You know what I mean? And for those of you that have watched our videos, I'm constantly inspired by people that figure out what they get the most joy from. And the next thing you realize that money's not an issue in their lives either.
Mhm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Skipping rocks, stacking plastic cups. It's very, very interesting that because when you look at other people born in other countries, you know, um, there's a lot of thought out there that a lot of people say to me all the time. It's like, well, if you were born here, you sure wouldn't be who you are today. And I'm like,
So
I
they're
didn't
like
yeah,
know that.
the nature nurture thing. I always when someone would say that to me, it's like, well, certain things went your way. Like I sometimes think of things in like video game terms, right? It's like I won the role, you know what I mean? The role of life. And not everybody does. Sometimes they get a couple of good dice, a couple of bad dice, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And some of those are nature and some of those are nurture. So it's one of those interesting thoughts because it's like, well, if your whole pattern of your life is based off the people that you hang around to a certain extent, but you're aware that you need to get out of that, I would call that nature. That's your mind going,
Yeah.
this isn't the right place for me. I'm not supposed to be around these people or be here.
Right.
And then nature or nurture, of course, is your parents going, this is what you need to be. This is what you need to do. This is what you should accomplish. Or maybe you had none of that. Maybe you didn't have parents that were there. And so I think it's really, really interesting when you ask that question, because I've thought that myself, right? Because I've been fortunate not just to have you and mom, but then also like I feel very, very much like I have this like internal confidence that for whatever reason never really goes away. It's more like, and I know I get that from you guys, you know, like
Yeah.
I,
And so
so is
were
it like
you.
that's nature or nurture in a sense? So
Right. So when I hear stories about, it's funny, it's not funny, but it's sad that the media and propaganda all focus on the negative things of life, right?
Mhm.
But you hear, whenever they bring up Sam Walton, and when he died, the founder of Walmart, his 5 children have always been in the top 20 of the wealthiest people on the planet. And so if you ever like put all their money together, most of the times they're still wealthier than the wealthiest person, because they're all like at 25 or 35 billion each. And whenever they talk about him, the very first woman that they bring, I mean, one of the children that they bring up is one of the women, one of his daughters that just feels like she was called to make sure that all the greatest art on the planet is not only purchased and redone, to make it as close as it was, but then she's got this, museum and like in the middle of Kansas or Nebraska or something. It's very weird where she has this. And they're always asked that, why would you do this? And she's been doing this for years. So now it's like in the top 5 of all museums in the world. And it's in
wow.
the middle of the country. And she goes, well, a lot of people can't make it to New York and a lot of people can't make it to LA. So I wanted one of the best museums to be in the mid of the United States, and there's no cost because it's a nonprofit. You know what I mean? And I'm going like, and the other one that constantly bring up, I love finding these stories is where, Warren Buffett's son,
Mm-hmm.
when he went to college, he went into like to get his master's and his PhD in
Agriculture.
agriculture.
Yeah.
And because he was blessed to be a part of that family, he just wanted to research and come up with a way where he could travel to countries and villages where they didn't know anything about farming, and he could teach families how to farm so they could teach to other people. So he wanted all these villages to be able to use a bartering system that he could go in and teach people how to grow certain plants so they could feed themselves, and that they could barter between each other so they didn't even need the concept of money. And you're sitting there going, damn. And so they've asked him many times, when his father dies, if he plans in stepping in, and he's got no interest whatsoever in Berkshire Hathaway, no interest at
Mhm.
all. And so are certain individuals, because we always hear about the kid that's the fuck up, right? It's like
Sure.
they always bring up that one. But when you look at pretty wealthy families, what child in there said, well, all the stuff that everybody else has to do, I don't have to do. So I'm going to pick out something that I'm called to do that gives me the most, and crazy
It's
is
like
just
the the royal empire almost. It's like if you're a prince, right? But you're not the prince that's going to eventually be king, then your life is kind of like the moment he has kids, your life is kind of good to go, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not
yeah,
you're not
yeah.
going to be you're still royalty. You still have infinite money and get to do whatever you want. But you don't
Does it
actually have to
feel good
rule.
is the thing,
Right.
like you're
So what do you
saying,
want to do
Robert.
now?
Yeah. What are you going to
Yeah.
do with what it is you have, even though you may be gifted? And this is, where we go back to like the rebel in the family. It's like, I can do whatever the hell I want. So you, and,
Right.
but is it value to you, or is it because you want to be a rebel? And, that's the other thing is, um, how, if you like what you do, you're going to succeed at what you do.
Right.
If you don't like what you do or where you're at, and you let that consume you, then you're not able to figure out what it is that's going to help you grow. At least in my opinion, what's going to help you grow, what's going to help you benefit others, and what's going to help you get to where you want to be. So in this case, like what you were saying with Warren Buffett and his son, all right, he's not interested in becoming a real estate magnate or helping other companies like his dad.
Yeah.
But he's taking what he was given, his gift of his being with his father, and using it still for the very good of the people by going out into other communities and helping them. That's a legacy unto itself.
And I never thought until I just was talking to you guys about this. Isn't it hilarious that no one really ever talks about the grandkids? It's like it just seems to stop at one level. Well, Warren Buffett's got 3 kids. Well, how many grandkids does he have? What the hell are they doing with their lives?
Because the only time we hear about that is when it comes to the kings and the queens. We don't hear that too much about, because royalty is so important.
Heirs,
at least that we heirs
to the throne.
Yes,
and it's spelled ERRORS.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like too, it's like it can become such a positive thing, but I'm sure for a lot of them it also becomes somewhat of a burden,
especially if they're pushed in that direction, and it's not something that's natural. And I think that's, like Robert, what you've done with your sons, you don't push them, you guide them, and then they take it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, too. They have taken what you shared with them and adapted that to their direction that they wish to go. And they're going to get some bumps and bruises along the way. And we've seen that happen. I think everybody's family, when they, start, they want to say, oh, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer. Yeah. And they don't end up being that. And so how disappointed is the family? Or are the parents willing to support the foundation that they gave the child, and then say, you know what, at this particular time, this child was influenced by these set of circumstances. Again, I'm going to go back to what I always keep saying, the A plus B equals C. The fact that you are a result of what you've been up to this point and where you are now. And now you've got to take this moment in time to determine where it is you want to go. And what I may say and do and go to is totally different. And I look at my brother, and it's that exact way. I was a smart person in high school. I got A's. My brother was not that at all. But at the same time, my brother, even though I was a bit of a nerd and a brain, as I got labeled in school, my brother was more of a person who got out and was in the community. He was more, he had friends. He also had more physical and creative abilities that I had at that time. That's not to say that I don't have them, but he had different kinds. And so when I was able to help him, for example, and I know I've shared the story, go to this skateboarding championship where he could shine. Oh my God, what a feeling that made me. The fact that I was, you know what, you're going and I'm helping. Here's the money. And he did it. And
so cool.
It's such a great feeling when you can do that and share and enjoy what other people bring to the table and embrace their gifts.
Yeah, you got to learn how to like support people like that are in your life instead of like supporting them the way that you feel would be best. Like I think one of the things that Dad, you've done really well, especially lately, is I've gone through this process of growing up, so to speak. And I know we all go through this process, and sometimes it takes people longer. And
I'm still growing up.
Right, exactly. Like one of the biggest things you realize when you get to past 30, now I'm 32, is, oh shit, none of these people know what the fuck they're doing. like we were just talking before this about the presidential debate tomorrow, and we're both going, nah, neither one of them know what they're doing. But
Or by the time this is posted, it'll be passed.
it will be
but
passed.
still.
So then all you guys could tell us if they do know what they're doing. But
Right.
on Friday. But no, it's so great to have people that support you and love you. But I've been going through this process with you, Dad, lately of like going from, okay, here's this stuff I learned to can't really teach Matt this shit anymore. He's got to become his own man and go down the path that he feels is right for him. And there's a lot of speed bumps. There's a lot of things that could happen through that path. And all I can do is kind of like cheer him on like I'm doing a marathon. You're at the sidelines, but you can't like pick me up because that's not your race, right?
It's that one.
And-
It's that part. It's that part that
Yeah.
where you, especially if people that are dealing in anything to do with personal development or physical ability, it's like I can't do the push-ups for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? If a person's disciplined and they're consistent, you can't be around them 24 hours a day to see what they eat and whether or not they're exercising. There all of a sudden becomes these things where you got to figure some stuff out on your own, and that's not always easy either. You want to be there for people, but like if they won't do anything, it's like, what can you do?
Yeah, well, I think too, it's like, you want your children, I'm sure, to be like physically and financially stable and all these different types of things, because then it gives you like a sense of, I mean, there's a lot that comes with that. But I think that no matter what, it's always going to come back to what you feel would be best for somebody, and then you have to circumvent that and ask yourself what do they want, what do they want to accomplish, what do they want to achieve, because one of the interesting things about this is if you would have asked your family, you, Dad, what should I be doing, they would have given you a bunch of shit that you wouldn't have been good at or wanted to do probably, and would have been a lot less successful than the things that you wanted to do.
Yeah,
you had to find that on your own, right?
You always hear this story too, that because whether you believe in conspiracy stuff or whatever, but it's like the whole concept is get a loan to get a good education and then get out and get a good job. And how fast can we get somebody in credit card debt, and how fast can we get them on a mortgage? You know what I mean? Is whatever the tool is, the concept of having security as being a homeowner, so that they can make 4 times what they gave you, off the money. You know what I mean? But now that you're stuck in the machine or stuck in the matrix, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you now? It's like, okay, I got dogs. I got bills. I got to feed myself and my animals. If you have a couple of kids, now you got that thrown in there. And it's like, you just can't one day. Well, most people don't, but you say, listen, that this is not what I signed up for. This is not the journey I'm on. And you go about your business. You know what I mean? And you just abandon everything. There's very few people on the planet that just will say, no, this is not the life that I want to live. I want to change it. And so what's sad about it is that most people have that learned hopelessness where they always think it's too late. They just say, I can't change. I can't learn something new. I can't travel. I can't.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I see where a majority of the people fall into is that, okay, let me get a job. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go the extra mile. I'm going to be unique. I'm going to work harder than anybody. And I'm going to climb this corporate ladder. And then you find out that the ladder is on the wrong fucking building. You know what I mean? So then what you do is you move the ladder a few times and it doesn't happen. And now all of a sudden you realize, what, instead of working my ass off trying to make something of myself, maybe I just need to get in the cog of life and just do as little as possible without getting fired, and continue every month robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know what I mean? And you're like, all of a sudden, hey, I don't know if I have the ability to recreate myself, or even
Especially in the later years
what
or
is
at
that
the time of life where you're at that level. Right.
Yeah.
Right. What is that one thing? You've done a whole video on it, but it's like this specific where it has the valley of despair, for some reason I thought Murphy's law, but I know that's not it.
No, it's that it's the law that has to do with why people think they're smarter than they are.
Right.
Dunning or
Dunning-Kruger
the
effect.
Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to bring that up in specific is that I've been watching stuff that brings this up once again.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about it is I have gone through this on so many occasions. There you go. I'll pull over to you. I was going to just show my screen here, but that's fine too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But no, you go through this set where you're like in the valley of despair. Let me zoom in here. You guys probably won't be able to see this.
That's all right.
But okay, so yeah, you guys go through the valley of despair and all these things, right?
Right.
Oh my God. And when you do, you go through this peak of ignorance, right? Where you truly believe like you know what you know, right?
Yeah.
And then you get equalized by somebody who actually knows, or the world who actually knows, or whatever it may be, right?
It reminds me like in any hero's journey, when all of a sudden, he's like fighting the drone,
Yeah.
Luke is fighting this drone, and it's like the more pissed off that he gets that he's getting tagged and
So
getting
true.
zapped.
But that's because you're like, you go in cocky and thinking, oh, I can do these things. And this is something that's really interesting about maybe my generation in general as well. But I think when you grow up, and if you're lucky enough, you have parents that say you can do whatever you want, you can accomplish whatever you want. And then you believe that and you're ignorant. And then the Dunning-Kruger effect happens to you. Oh, I can make a TikTok and grow it easily. Oh, I could build a YouTube channel easily. I could do whatever I want, right? And then that confidence gap.
I can be an influencer and a podcaster.
Yes. And then you get cultured. The views start coming in, the things, and you go, oh, fuck, I'm not like actually what I thought I was. So then you get equalized. And then there's that confidence gap between you and becoming an expert, where you go into a sense of humility and start learning again. And you start, your confidence comes from the humility that you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And when you accept that in whatever area you're in, it becomes like so much easier to actually do shit in any area, because like I've been equalized so many fucking times on my ignorance of how intelligent I think I am, how amazing I think I am. And in a lot of ways you could say, oh, well, you're just, you should think negatively about yourself. This was a positive experience for me. Yeah. Because humility, I believe, is the thing that I need more than anything, because I was saying I have that confidence, and that confidence can become ego. The only thing that stops that confidence from becoming an ego is humility.
Right.
So I can be confident and humble, but the moment you start going, I'm the shit, and you get an ego, the downfall has begun. That now you're back in that ignorance spot all again. So
remember when we talked about in some of our previous podcasts where, the mentality is the older I get, the less I know. But here's another thing that I've come to grips with. It's the ego that thinks just because Tony Robbins is doing something or Frank Kern is doing something, then I can do it, when it really doesn't even match my DNA. I'm not wired like they are just to sell shit to make money.
Also like
the
traveling and speaking and all that stuff, you're incredibly great at that. But I've seen you come back from like those South America legs and like the Asia ones, when you would be gone for a bit and just constantly be doing meetings. And I'm like, who would want to do this as like a career? You know what I mean? And that is Tony Robbins. He's like constantly traveling and doing these events. And I'm like, fuck that. I like being home.
Yeah. But that's part of, you're finding your journey that you're on. Right. And what you like and what you don't like, and aligning with that vortex or that frequency that you like to do. I mean, a lot of people may not like exactly what you do, Robert or Matt, or even what I do. But that's for them to figure out. And sometimes you need to take that journey, and you need to be humbled and humilitied. I'm going to use that as a word, humilitied.
Hey, we love making up words here, man. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, exactly. Getting gooder and gooder.
Right.
But you got to do something, because
Right.
you got to find out, okay, it doesn't work. This works. Let me go in this. Well, I can only go this far because supposedly I've reached the end of this, or at least this part doesn't feel good. Let me go ahead and take this next fork in the road, or open up this new door, or follow this new path. Because it does come down to what aligns with what you are at this time.
I always tell people, when you ask people what they want and they don't know, again, it's like, who inspires you? Who are you watching right now that inspires
Isn't
inspires
that
you?
isn't that funny, Craig?
Oh,
That you said
yes.
that?
Yeah.
Because I know
And
you
the
probably
reason,
haven't watched it, but that's all we talked about for Inner Circle and Imaginators. Was I had
oh,
people make a list of people that inspire them
Oh
and
yeah,
look
Matt
into
set
it and
that up,
everything.
and I think we should
perfect.
follow up on that too. But
Absolutely, we will.
so join
Yeah,
Inner Circle, join Imaginators.
because people
Below this
people
video.
Look at the,
yeah,
yeah.
people that used to inspire me don't inspire me anymore. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
used to be so inspired by Roger Penske. And then one day things happened, now I get to look at him as a silver lining. Because if I wouldn't have got hurt on the job, um, I know that I would have been happy being a crew chief for however long. I would have hit it. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm that
Hmm.
determined. I'm that disciplined. I'm that persistent. But that wasn't what was fulfilling me. And so, all of a sudden you go from this the science of achievement. See, everything was for me as numbers. I'm analytical. How efficient and how fast can I do something? And so I took a lot of pride in that, but there's absolutely no teaching in that. The things that I mastered, and being an automotive engineer, was things that could not be taught. And but I had a professor that told me that, and I didn't listen. So I'm in, in North Dakota College of Science, and I got my science professor telling me, "Hey, there's 200 kids in this class, and there's going to be 3 of you that are just going to knock it out of the freaking park. And the rest of you are just not." And it's like, "Why am I in this class?" Well, because someone told you to be in there. But
Right.
there was other people that dove in and really liked that. So then when I get hurt and I find my second mentor, he really inspired me, and I really, really, wanted to be like him and do what he did, until I found out the other part of his personality when he owned his own company. And then I didn't want anything to do with him. And then it took me years to get over that. What I seen that he did, that I thought that I should be doing, was not for me. It is not for me at all.
You
I'd
were taken
rather
to a place that to a fork in the road,
right.
and you followed that one path until you reached that one fork in the road. In the case of the mentors,
Yeah.
and Roger Penske could only go so far.
Right.
And then that was your stop. That was the locked door for a visual effect. So you had to go find another door to open and go through for your life experience. And you
Right.
found mentor number 2.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that I read in books, in success books, talk about, we're all trying to, whether you're talking on a spiritual plane or whatever plane you're talking about, but you're always trying to achieve the next level of yourself. To so sort of put you in a challenge and just see, what else you can do. And the last 2 years for me, you guys have watched me do this, where, it really is time. you know, Think and Grow Rich covers this, where, it's called, they talk about all the energy that you spend in, you know, uh, being very active on a sexual level, that you're this dominant person. How many notches can I get in my belt, or, that kind of deal. And they say that most people really achieve the art of fulfillment in their later years. because now it goes from the science of achievement where I am now, and this might sound like I'm bragging, but it's like right now I'm 100% in the whole concept of creating what I've got gathered for 62 years. It's time for me to create a way that I know can take me to a place where I impact more people. And and when you're listening, that I don't know who told us about this book, but I ordered it right away. But it was called Winks from God.
Hmm. I'm trying.
I don't
Maybe
remember.
did you hear that on your travels? Maybe
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I heard about it in a podcast. Um,
when
but
God winks at you
yeah, when God
Okay.
winks at
by
you.
Squire Rushnell.
Yeah. And so I I looked him up, and really what the whole book is about is these, regardless of your beliefs, even if you don't believe in God, there's these things there that are, um, just coincidences or signs or, things that are so what he says is that, if he said it'd be hard to find a person on the planet that you felt like you were part of the conversation, and then maybe you sort of felt lost, and then you looked at somebody, and as soon as you caught their eye, it brought this calmness over you, and they sort of smiled and went, you know hey, listen, everything's okay. I know you don't feel comfortable here, but everything's all right. You might feel out of place. There's a lot of people talking a bunch of shit that you don't understand. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be here just to broaden your awareness and your consciousness to go, what the fuck is that all about? And so if you look at the cover, and I just watched videos about him, but that whole concept again is when you want to be unique. And so
Mm-hmm.
what you did is everyone's got a yellow car, so you got a blue one, and then all you can see is other blue cars.
Right. It's like I love red. Well, I'm so glad I don't have a white Tesla because there's so many of them out here in Irvine. But damn, there's a lot of red ones too.
Yeah.
So
And so, these winks is basically whether you were a believer or not, that he got, and I love this, what he said this, the short interview that I seen on YouTube, is he said, the whole concept that people that believe they're the luckiest person on the planet actually are because
it's like
of their
power of
belief.
positive thinking.
Yeah,
Yes.
because they
Mm-hmm.
believe. So it's like, wait, this shit happens to me all the time. I always find the right people. I always find the things that I need to get me to the next level of life. Don't worry about it. And it's like, how does that go across to someone that's analytical, that believes that everything has to be handwritten out in a master plan? There's absolutely no consciousness of looking around and someone goes, this way. Go, hey, listen, this is what you need to be doing, because we get such into being control freaks that there was a post that I seen a long time ago, you guys, and I probably shared it, but it's like, you know, you're not going to get what you truly need in life if you're constantly thinking about how much time and money you spent staying on that same mistake.
Mm.
Sunken cost fallacy. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
so
like
so in your mind, you're going, I've been doing this forever. This is what I do. And then I had a doctor, thank God he was an idiot, that said, you're not going to be a mechanic anymore. You won't be able to support your weight. You're not going to be a mechanic. And the way that he said it, I thought, geez, my mind didn't even think of an artificial leg, or I knew I heard it bad, but it was like, shit, how bad can it be? And it's like, it's crazy how things happen in your life to changes directions of your life to not understanding, but then all of a sudden when you're learning new stuff and you feel passionate about it and that's the direction you're going, that's when everybody sort of says to the entrepreneur, the misfit, the weirdo, It's like, listen, you need to give that shit up and you need to go get a job. You know, you need to go back and get a job and just get in line with the rest of the sheeple. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, what if you could financially support yourself mastering, you know, the book Mastery, Matt, that I talked about,
Right.
isn't it Robert Greene?
Yep. Robert Greene, Mastery. He also did the 48 Laws of Power and Seduction and a bunch of other books. So
Yeah, and it's like to think that I knew about the book, I've never read the book,
me neither, not
and
yet. I
and
do have it now though.
yeah,
So
and I didn't know about the book, but all of a sudden when I see this guy talking, and then you know, the whole thing about, you know, what if you spent more of your time being connected and centered, listening to what the force or whatever you call it happens to you. And you know that if you just went into the mastery of that skill that gives you the most joy, that the money will show up. See, that's why they call this word faith or whatever, a belief, imagination. It's, yeah, we can imagine, but what part of you says that's bullshit? What part of that
mhm.
group around that you're hanging around going, you know, listen, yeah.
Right.
Again, you know, do I believe one day that I'll have a million subscribers, paid subscribers? I know that I will. And now you got to sort of just trust whatever you're listening to, the winks or whatever, to create what you need to create to make that happen. Most people, when we were talking about going on this trip, you know, it is always funny to me that everyone that uh, Jefferson Santos said this statement one time why he loves going on vacation with people. He says, when you first see other people, it's always even a family reunion or a class reunion. But it's like, why do we do this stuff? It's this human nature, that competitive state. It's like, what are you doing now? Well, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. And, you know, we're probably all saying, you know, like, you know, someone like, I'm a landscape engineer when you really mow lawns. You know what I mean? We got to make large titles to our shit, you know. And it's like everything's going great. And then the second day, part of the vacation, you're sort of like recouping from your travel, you know,
Right.
and you're sort of
Especially
just,
if you had to travel long ways.
yeah.
So
And so
yeah.
now all of a sudden, you know, you're just sort of relaxed and readjusting. And he says, but the third day is when you put down all that shit and the competitiveness and stuff. And now everybody's like, okay, so how are you really doing? And you're open enough to say, hey, well, that third day I'm hanging around all these people that do similar stuff as me. And it's like they're all questioning in themselves. Every one of them's
Mm.
like, not really sure how you change and how the world's changing, and the stuff that we used before doesn't work anymore. And I always tell people, I'm so blessed that I grew up in the racing world where you know, everything that we're doing today we're not doing tomorrow. I mean, I really think about my whole life and how fast I can change shit and totally get rid of everything that I did in the past, because I'm confident enough of knowing that the new way of doing this is going to be the right way to do it. And what if it
Absolutely.
isn't? And what if it isn't? I'll tweak it. What if it, so, you know, most people just don't do nothing. I'd
Mhm.
rather be a massive failure out of million things and be knowing when I'm no longer here of the one thing I fucking pulled off.
Yeah, like we were even talking about before you left, it's almost like the venture capitalist idea. It's like,
Yeah.
and that's the idea they have. They'll invest in like 30 startups, and one of those startups will be Uber, and then the other 29 don't even matter.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's interesting because when you see successful people, and they always say, just like you say, Dad, like they'll fail at one thing and readjust, and fail at one thing and then readjust and figure it out. And you need to constantly be okay not having that sunken cost fallacy, not going, I've already invested so much into this. And I love how you brought up like the driving stuff, because other than like the internet, I can't, and technology, I can't think of many other industries that probably change as consistently as racing does.
Oh, in fact,
Because of the innovations in technology, right? So
Yep.
it's like you have new innovations in technology. Now you have to add new things to a car. Now it's changed the way you drive, the way you do things. And it reminds me of even that one story that you share from time to time, Dad, about Tiger Woods and his strokes, right? Like
Yeah.
how he would hit the ball. And if you don't mind, share that because I feel like it connects so
Yeah.
with what you're
Well,
sharing. So,
yeah, well, there's no doubt that Tiger Woods will go down in history as being one of the best golfers that ever golfed.
right.
And the tournaments that he's won and the Masters that he's won. I don't know how many Masters, but it's a lot, right? And all of a sudden he was doing some kind of it was a senior tour, but it was like coupled up for a charity where the young dudes get to play with the old dudes. They pair up, and it was Arnold Palmer, and he was watching Tiger Woods, and he was like, he goes, dude, man, he says, you're not using all your muscles, you're just using your back muscles. And Tiger Woods even said that he was offended. Like, why are you jealous of me? It's because I'm breaking every one of your fucking records. And he could tell that Arnold Palmer was saying it to him in a way like, hey, this is just a little bit of wisdom. Yeah, I hope you break all my records. It was nothing to do with jealousy. And Tiger Woods said, what do you mean? And he's going like, he says, you're not going to be able to sustain 3 rounds or 3 days playing in a tournament, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and closing out. The muscles that you're using that in your stroke they're going to start failing you. And all of a sudden, it wasn't even a couple of years after that now Tiger Woods can't complete because he's having back spasms. It's like,
Yep.
Arnold Palmer was like a freaking fortune teller. And so, so all of a
He's
sudden,
like, it's an inevitability. It's just a matter of
yeah,
time. So,
yeah. And
Right.
so Tiger Woods, had to find here's a guy that's going down in the Hall of Fame as one of the best golfers ever on the planet. And he had to relearn playing golf with the right way to swing the club.
But isn't this what you keep sharing, Robert, where it's
Yeah.
documentation beats conversation? In other words, you've gone through everything and you can train people to whatever point you're at.
Yeah.
And Arnold Palmer was obviously at the peak of what he was, and yet, like you said, here's this little upstart Tiger Woods.
There's no doubt in my mind that was one of those things you learn, like the Yoda thing.
well, I
Yeah.
was gonna say,
No
it
one-
doesn't it
no
fit
one-
that Dunning Krueger effect, even though he's one of the best of all
Yep.
time. Like it
Yep.
still fits that and that's the crazy thing about life is you can actually excel at something, and then
Yeah.
have somebody go, "Hey, dude, if you actually tried it out this way, it might be a little better." And you're like, "Screw you!" Like like you said, I'm at the
Yeah.
top of the world, and you don't realize because you don't have the wisdom yet, and you're in that peak. Being like,
Yep.
oh, whatever shows up, I got this. I just blow through these walls. And then eventually you like slam into a wall that you can't break through. You
Right.
go, oh, fuck, maybe that guy was right.
And
Maybe
we're
that
not
girl
just
was right.
talking about athletics. We
Right,
see
of course.
we see people go through this in all kinds of different things because, while he was one of the best athletes on the planet, that didn't mean that you could go to certain places with guys that don't give a rip about a relationship and not have that suffer on your relationship. So now all of a
True.
sudden Tiger Woods one day has got his wife beating him with a golf club out in the front of his house. And it's like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? That's your ego getting in the way on every one of those things. But
Mhm.
the thing I think that's really interesting is that as soon as so Tiger Wood, the story is that he had to relearn to do this, but he also had a couple of surgeries on his back because he took too long to listen to wisdom from somebody else to change his stroke. So now all of a sudden he's trying to learn a new way of doing it, but now he's got muscle memory of doing it wrong for so many years that he keeps tweaking his back, even though he's learning a new stroke. And if you guys read the story on Tiger Woods, he fell out of the top 100. To think that he was number 1 rated for like 10 years and then falls out then had to recover and do rehab. And then after he does all that, he comes back slow to learn the right way to do it. And then I don't know what the span was between his master's jackets, but that's what human beings love. So he messed up his relationship. He gets a divorce. His wife gets all this money. He's so messed up. He's having trouble with painkillers and alcohol and get pulled over a couple of times. And it's like, shit, this is going to be gone. And then he reinvents himself and comes back and wins the master again after all this time off. Well, now you see him and he spends most of his time golfing with his son. You know what I mean? It's like,
and he's probably teaching his son what he should have done when Arnold Palmer made the suggestion.
Bingo.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, the Valley of Despair. I'll tell you guys another quick one too. There's Richard Petty, and then there's Dale Earnhardt Sr., and then there's Jimmy Johnson. They're the only three drivers that have won 7 world championships. And to show you the dynasty of Jimmy Johnson, he's the only guy that won 4 in a row. It's a big deal in other sports like football to win, a 3-peat. I mean, Jimmy Johnson is a freaking 4-peater. People don't even talk about 4-peater, right? It's like that doesn't happen. He then went to Indy cars, sucked big time. I mean, sucked big time. Then he comes back and starts up his own NASCAR team like Michael Jordan did. And he teamed up with Richard Petty. So now you got 7-time with 7-time, and they're trying to do it. So then, Jimmy Johnson's like, I'm a car owner. Then I can do like the Daytona 500, or I'll do the All-Star race, and I'll also do the Brickyard, the big ones, right? Man, he does not know how to drive this new car. and to see a 7-time world champion out there think he still got it, and NASCAR is not the same racing anymore. They got these new cars, new chassis, new everything, and
new drivers.
And these young kids that spend all their time in simulators are jumping in these cars, and they're all like, hey, I just went by 7-time. That's what they call him. So to think that the 7-time world champion can't compete with these young kids that grew up in simulators. And they're going like, well, why do you think that is? And they were talking about one of the kids, Kyle Larson. There's Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and also Richard Petty goes this new kid, Kyle Larson. They're going like, he makes me look like I don't know how to drive. And the guy races every night. He's racing something. If he's not racing a go-kart, he's racing sprint cars, outlaw cars, then shows up, and everything that he gets in, he fucking wins. And they're going like, and he grew up in simulators. He's the one that got in trouble when COVID came out, and he was on a simulator racing with somebody, and someone stuck him in the wall, and he yelled out the N-word.
You get these comparisons, Robert. I mean, how many times have we heard, okay, what is today's basketball team versus, let's say, the older basketball team of the same, who like the 72-73 Lakers versus the 92-93, I may be wrong, Bulls,
right,
who would win. And it's 2 totally different eras, 2 totally different timelines, and 2 totally different groups of people.
Yeah. Well, when Kareem lost his title for the most points shot, do you know that Kareem had like 25,000 points or something like that? Something crazy. Never, ever, ever had a 3-point shot. He plays under the bucket. He does the sky hook. He's in the paint.
Be like Shaq.
Like
I don't know how many 3-point shots Shaq has.
Yeah. And so now, this last, the Celtics won it, and these 2 kids were together. We talked about that, where, they've been together for 9 years, and they finally win a world championship. they said that they were the highest scoring team the whole entire season, including the finals, and they averaged 6 to 9 3-point shots a game.
That's
It's now in their roster, and it's not that one or two people do it. It's like 5 players that could be sitting on the bench come out, and they're so good at passing it around, and one of them gets an open shot, and they're hitting 50-60% from the 3-point line. And it's like,
and
so
that's like the
now
baseline now. It's like, to a
Yeah.
certain extent, they are now setting another level, just like the other players did before with 3-point shooting. Because I've noticed, I don't really watch basketball or anything as much anymore, but I've even noticed that some of these games point wise go like way higher than they used to.
Yeah.
And it's almost
now
like
that
they're
girl-
focused way more on offense than defense. And it's
Yeah,
like,
now
well,
that girl, Caitlin Clark, in
Right.
her last year in basketball, she broke all these records, including the men's record for the most points and the most 3 points. And now she's in the NBA, and it's like it took her a few games to adjust, but now everybody's watching her because this girl shoots another 10 feet away from the 3-point line.
right.
So now everyone knows you come up to the 3-point line. These people come all the way up, the defenders come all the way up to the 3-point line to defend. Well, she's coming up, stops 10 feet before the 3-point line, and they're saying there should be a 4-point line now. You know what I mean? But most defenders won't come all the way out there, and she goes, oh, no problem, sinks it. That gets a little discouraging.
Absolutely. I can only imagine.
And what it does is it does create, and this is something you can see in ice skating. It does create a new level for people to go for. And the reason why I say ice skating is because how long were people doing double twists, axles, Foley's, however they call those things? I mean, I know there's different ones. Then all of a sudden,
it sounded like a plug for Beverly Hills Cop.
I was going to say too, like we're talking about all this stuff with sports too.
You said Alex, and then you said Foley, or what?
Yeah. Well, but I mean, I want you to continue with that, Matt. But now you've got, with the ice skating, now you went from doubles to triples, and then now all of a sudden the triples are considered the base when it comes to scoring the points. Now you've got somebody who's doing quads. And that will eventually become the base. And it's like, oh my God, this person can get so high that they can do 4 spins in the air. When are we going to see a 5er?
Yeah.
Well, that's the cool thing about it, is it's like setting a certain mile in a certain amount of time or whatever it may be. There's kids that are growing up now that are watching us use, whether it's technology, whether it's sports, because the Olympics are about to happen next month. But there's always that bar is being raised. And I think what's so interesting about that is not only is the bar getting raised in the quality of competitors, but it's also getting raised in the scope of where these competitors come from, right? Yeah. Which is really impressive when you think about it, because what ends up happening too is now, because we're more in a worldwide situation, we're now competing. There's certain countries that are competing, looking for people all around the world to bring them young to the United States, to compete for the United States.
Absolutely.
And people don't realize this. They don't realize that there's like programs set up to help people immigrate to the United States and become U.S. citizens because they believe that this person's a competitive winner, and that there's scholarships and things like that for that. But every single time that bar gets raised, right? Like you'll see, in the arts is another example, is like me and Hannah were just talking about the other day. There's like pre-Marlon Brando, and then there's after Marlon Brando. And if you guys know acting and like know film to a certain extent, Marlon Brando, he's not the only one, because there's like the French New Wave cinema and stuff. I'm not going to get into cinema history, but Marlon Brando, when he did A Streetcar Named Desire and a few of these other films, showed up and just did it differently than most people had ever seen. He was
Mhm.
he was instead of he was pulling from a internal place that most people just didn't want to touch or do. Right? He was like actually pulling from real life experiences, showing real life emotions in a way that was very like visceral to the audiences at the time. They were not used to somebody going to those lengths. And now you can't even fucking get close to even winning an Oscar if you don't do that. It's like you really need to give
You see the
yourself.
people in the you see the people in the zone or they're not.
Yeah, and they disappear. Like Meryl Streep has won multiple times, and it's because she can disappear into whatever role she's playing, right? And that comes from a place of surrender, and that comes from a place of also trust in yourself and in the process, people around you. And the bar was just raised. So now all these kids that are growing up as actors or
Yeah.
growing up as creatives, that's part of their process now. So before wasn't part of the process. And now we have a whole group of actors where if you saw somebody act like they used to pre those times, you would look at them and go, they don't know how to act. And yet that was the best of the best baseline back then.
I wish
Right?
everyone would find out again what they enjoy most and do that kind of research to see how many times that industry has replaced itself.
Such a
You know,
great
because
idea.
because we're hearing right now that the big things that are out there are the, right now everyone's competing to get on the US Olympic team.
Mhm.
And I guess there's some kid that already has broken one of Michael Phelps' records. You know what I
Damn.
mean? It's like, well, we knew that was going to happen. Why do everyone always say that the person that's right now the goodest is the goodest?
Well, records
No.
are meant to be broken. That's why they
Oh,
exist. Right?
totally. But if we looked at everything else out there and the way, because I know we talk a lot of things about that, but like even what is important in life to be happy and fulfilled. It's cool to live in a time where people are going, wait a minute, there's not one definition to love. There's not one definition to
Yeah, it's
hate.
not like the
There,
periodic table or the food pyramid where it's like this is it
Right.
for everybody, right?
yeah,
And even those
and
things we've questioned.
yeah, and the more that people realize that again that concept of you believing that you can do something because your first thought is, oh my God, if that guy can do it, I can crush this. If that girl's doing this, I can crush this. And then you get in. And one thing that I loved about some of the stuff that I'm listening to recently is even with Charlie Munger, is he was going, I can tell you right now the people that are going to be taking over me and Warren's position as being individuals on helping people be the best they can be. And he goes, that those are going to be the people that understand that there isn't a shortcut. He goes, to think that I've been on this planet for almost 100 years. And he goes, the saddest thing that he says that I see people is they're constantly seeking for a way to shortcut instead of finding something they enjoy and focus on mastery.
Huge.
And
Very true. Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
going because you're never going to be good at anything you don't like.
That's
I used
yeah.
to say this, Robert, and when
How are
when
you
I
going
was
to be
with
good at something you don't like doing?
Yeah,
yeah,
you have to
I
put
used to say
in
it
the same
at our
effort.
old company that we were at Gano. It was like, I'm not here because I have to be here. I'm here because I want to be here. And that's what a lot of people need to figure out and focus. Do you have to be here because you have to be here? Or is it
Yeah.
because you enjoy it, want it, and it feels so good?
Yeah.
No, I think too it's like one of those incredible things about life as you're growing and as you're going through it, going back to even what I was saying earlier, how like that valley exists for multiple different things where once you start
Right.
to think, hey, I'm good at
Everything.
this, then you get humbled and you're like, okay. And we're kind of in one of those changeover periods, like more than most, I'd say, even though, whenever I think about it, it's like, could you have a time that exists that's more change than like the last 100 years? You know what I mean? It's a lot of exponential change and growth, which is really, really good. But it's also not taking into account that human beings take time to change and take time to grow, and it's different for every single one of us what that is.
Yeah.
So I'm watching like a bunch of people panic now. Every single time there's a new AI video generation platform that comes out that's even fucking better than the one before, easier to use, don't have to roll the dice 50 times to get it made. It's more and more people are going, shit, I thought this was years away. I thought this was, I thought I would be retired by the time this would exist. And that's not the case. And so a lot of people are now having to like second guess even what they've decided to do with their lives,
Right.
Like I brought up, I think on one of these podcasts, or maybe it was a different video, that graphic design is like really on its way out because of AI, if not already on its way out, right? Like a lot of I grew up loving graphic design and doing it pretty much subtly as a career almost. Like it's probably the thing I've done the most, right? And I rely on AI tools so much now to generate art and generate things, because it's like learning how to do that stroke, like you said with Tiger Woods, better. You don't lose your artistic mind and your artistic eye. You just get faster at creating things and making things. And
It's how you adapt to the environment is really what it is.
Yes. So yesterday I posted like this, Toys R Us made this commercial with Sora, right? And Sora, if you guys don't know, is the AI video generation model by OpenAI that makes ChatGPT. And it's not out yet, but it's like revolutionary to the point that what's his face decided not to open his $800 million studio in Atlanta, Tyler Perry, after he saw Sora. That's how groundbreaking AI is for film.
Crazy.
And you'll see, and I posted this video today because here's this filmmaker that's always leaned into, like Steven Spielberg, his mentor, always leaned into whatever the new age version of things is. His name's Robert Zemeckis. He's the guy that made Forrest Gump, Castaway, and Back to the Future. And he's got this new film coming out, and the trailer came out today, and I posted it everywhere, called Here, right? And this all takes place in one spot. The camera does not move for this whole entire movie. The whole story from the beginning to end takes place in one spot in front of the camera. And Tom Hanks is in it. Who else is in it? Robin Wright is in it. And the guy that wrote it is Eric Roth. Eric Roth. And then Robert Zemeckis is directing it. If you guys didn't know, this is the whole entire team that made Forrest Gump. Same actors. Robin Wright played Jenny. Tom Hanks played Forrest Gump.
Holy cow.
Eric Roth wrote the script and adapted Forrest Gump, and Robert Zemeckis directed it. So you have all these people back together. And if you watch the trailer, you can look it up after this, or I'm sure Craig will put it in the description.
Yes.
They're using AI in this film to age them, younger and older. And it is very hard at this point. They even get close to the camera. It's very hard at this point to tell, other than there's subtly like not as many imperfections as there could be, but that will change between now and November when they finish the film. But
it blew me away when I saw the trailer, because you see young Tom Hanks when he was like
he's in Big.
Was some buddies.
Yeah.
Or in Big. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so you're looking at this and going, you could look at the comments on X or on Twitter for this, and you could look at the comments for the Toys R Us ad that I shared the other day with Sora, and they are just a bunch of hateful people going, this technology is awful. Imagine all the VFX people now because everything that you see with the face swap was done with a computer. Before you'd have to have 10, 15 VFX artists fix Tom Hanks's face and make it on every single one of those renders look realistic. And this is why it doesn't look realistic, by the way. Because you can't match it exactly, but now computers can. So you have all these people that go, holy shit, this new technology exists. I'm canceling my $800 million studio production. I'm going to lean into it and utilize the technology to tell stories that I couldn't tell before, right? You've seen filmmakers already use this de-aging technology. And I've said this to Craig because Craig's an actor. I'm like, we're very close to a place where you can play anything you want and be any age you want and be anybody you want with any voice you want as an actor. So now the barrier of entry now is exactly back to where I was talking about. How good of an actor are you? How great of a performance can you give? How much can you embody that character? Because you could be a squid if you wanted to. And that used to exist, but now I'm talking about your physical performance can be changed with a computer into anybody you want, with any voice you want. The sky's the limit, really. So the unfortunate thing is you're going to have a lot of really great actors playing a lot of parts and a lot of bad actors that are not going to get parts anymore. But isn't that how the Olympics work? We don't have people running in the Olympics that can't win. You know?
In my opinion, that's the way. I really, really am a kind of person that that if a person's not willing to find what they want in life, again, I can help you find whatever I can find. I can help you. I was talking to Bob, Coach Bob today, and it really dawned on me that, you guys have been around me in the last year, and I see this guy that's doing very, very well and marketing online. And it really got to the point where I just went, why don't I find out what this guy loves to do that he's doing each and every day and just assist him and making what he does better instead of trying to get people to do what I do. Because it's already extremely obvious to me that even the people that the 67 people that I've helped make over $1 million in commissions, they're not doing it my way.
Right. It was more like, that's the interesting thing about it. If you sat down
their way.
Yeah. If you sat down with them, they probably say that you got them in the mindset to believe in themselves, that they could do it their own way. And that was a massive hurdle to get over, one that I'm still working on, but you're helping me with. But, I'll probably be 68 or whatever it ends up being. But
here's the funny part about what you're saying, Matt. It's like, what if the faith and belief or the imagination is the reason that they've made millions of dollars is because they knew I did. They seen documentation in it. And in their imagination, they believe they're doing exactly what I'm doing.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. They took your foundation that you gave them, Robert.
But it became theirs.
It became theirs. They could, like we were talking about earlier with the doors that open and close. In their mind, in their life, you got them to that point where there was a door closed, but they moved over here and they found an open door and they went in that direction.
Yeah.
But if they hadn't had that foundation, where would they have been?
Yeah.
I think you can ask all of them that question. And if it wasn't for the fact that you got them to a certain point, then they probably wouldn't be where they are.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's that trust that you got to have in yourself again. It's got to be that trust in yourself where, the one that we talked about at the beginning is another way is uninformed optimism is ignorance on fire. And so that's why we have so many words for it, like beginner's luck. There, wasn't it probably already 3 or 4 years ago where, some horse got scratched at the Kentucky Derby. And so this horse got in and it never won a race and it never qualified. It never even qualified for the Kentucky Derby and then wins it. It's like
Seabiscuit.
Yeah. The one that Roger Penske used to say to me all the time is you got to be careful about the people that didn't get the memo.
That's a good one. That should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah. It's like, well, how did you become successful? I didn't get the memo that I've said this humbly because I mean it. I'm not smart enough to fail. I'm too dumb. I actually believe, shit, if this person's doing this and they got 1 million subscribers, I'm going to get 1 million subscribers. Well, how are you going to do it? Do it.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people that have grown followings with the YouTube subscribers or Twitch. I watched this guy has millions, right? Like he's one of the biggest. And he did this whole PowerPoint presentation live on how to become a big streamer. And so he goes through this whole entire thing in the beginning, which was similar to what I've shared, where it's who inspires you? What streamers do you watch? Who do you want to be like? And he's like, it take 10 minutes. If you can't write that list, then you already fucking shouldn't be doing this. Was one of the first things he said, because if you can't do that part, then clearly you're not going to go through the whole process. And he said, step 2. And then he goes to the second slide. He's like, you have to be fucking crazy enough to believe you actually can become a big streamer. You have to be nuts to think I'm special enough to become one of these people, right?
Yeah.
And that goes back to the same like Steve Jobs thing. You have to be crazy enough to actually believe that you can do something to do it.
Yeah.
If you don't, like when Steve Jobs first came to Steve Wozniak, and this even comes back to, I shared this over the weekend with people, but it goes back to what you were sharing, where it's like, okay, Coach Bob excels at certain things. I excel at certain things, as you know. And it's like, instead of trying to become
Craig
Robert,
definitely excels at a lot of things.
absolutely, many things. My goal in the process is to become a complement like that relationship became. And that's something that even your awareness has like brought up in me, right? Where it's like, oh shit, I don't have to be, if I'm an excited person or like you are, you're so good at promoting, sharing, giving people like gifts, doing so much, right? And it's like, you could follow that in your own path in your own way, but it's also really exciting to just figure out what you're good at, get people in front of that person that's got that excitement, and build the foundation around them. Because if Wozniak didn't build the computer, Steve Jobs would have had fuck all to promote, right?
Well, I love the
But
part.
yet-
I love the part. I love
Yeah.
the part in the Steve Jobs story, Matt, and I know that you shared this with me, where Steve Jobs, I guess, basically said to Wozniak that, hey, our computers have to do this. And Wozniak's response was, we need 8 things to make this happen. And he said, we have money for 4. And he went, so I guess I have to make 4 do the same as 8? And I guess Steve Jobs was like, yeah. And it was like, okay, I'll get right on that.
Excitement, though, challenge to a mind that loves what they're doing. Wozniak, right place, right time.
All my
Saw
hair
that.
standing up.
Yeah, saw
All
that
my
and
hair
went,
standing up.
I can do it. This is a challenge that I can accept and try to do.
And that was Henry Ford. You know,
Yep.
so back in the day, you know, they made a 4-cylinder and then they made a 6-cylinder. And now to get more horsepower, you need 8 cylinders in a roll or 10 cylinders or 12 cylinders. So now 3/4 of the car is hood.
Right.
That's right.
You know, because
the old long nosed cars. Yes.
Right.
The
if you
classic
go back and look
Gatsby
at the
style.
old cars, it's like
Yeah.
and that's where the phrase came from, boats. These things look like fucking boats, you know? And Henry Ford goes to his engineers and he says, listen, why don't we put 4 like this and 4 like this? You know, just and every one of the engineers go, that is not possible. And Henry Ford told his engineers, you know, that classic line that you guys will figure it out, or I will find people that want to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's it. Is that the truth is
how
you
many
have to be
times did we
crazy.
hear that about Steve Jobs? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, here's the mouse right here. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Robert, what do you keep telling people the most dangerous phrase in the world is?
This is the way it's always been done.
Yep. And nowadays, that's like almost a dangerous statement. Because like, if you came at it and said, well, you know, this is the way it's always been done. Listen, right. I've been working on like all these new campaigns and stuff with Hannah and stuff with some really cool shit that we've been doing. And yes, I've been working on it diligently and it's been going really, really well. And then yesterday I did the one thing that I should have done from the very beginning, which was I caved completely to AI and went, I'm just going to take everything I've already done, feed it into ChatGPT, ask it questions about what things could be better, what things could change. It will know enough about what I want to do based off of me giving it information. And I'm just going to have it write me 7 emails and then I'll edit them. I didn't have to edit one of the fucking emails.
Wow.
It has the affiliate link in it. It connects, get this, Dad, it connects chapters of your book with quotes from you in it with the page number. And then it also connects all of that to dream trips.
Wow.
And I'm looking at it because I fed it your capture page of Dream Trips. I fed it the Dream Trips website and PDFs. I fed it, how is that working? And I fed it a couple of transcripts of your YouTube videos talking about it. And then I fed it my Google Drive PDFs of everything I wrote of the campaign of the way that I wanted to do it. And instead of me sitting there and going, oh, well, maybe this part or that part. And then I'm thinking in my mind, okay, I've gotten this part done. Now I have to sit down and write the emails based off of everything I know from the research and shit. And I'm like, you always talk about AI, just use it. And then I fed it all in there and it worked. Like it really, really worked. Wow. And I was like,
well, here's
never doing it the other way again.
But see, Matt, you've had to gone through all of that to figure it out. You had to, all right, for lack of a better set of words, you had to master the mundane.
I was at the peak yesterday, you guys. I was at the peak yesterday. I believed, similarly, that I have something in my mind that's juiced up that goes, you know better.
Yeah.
And then I fell into that valley yesterday after I ran all that shit through AI and went, fuck no, dude. This thing is going to replace you so easy. It's not even funny. So utilize it. And it's like, damn.
Well, here's my deal on this whole concept is that, you know, that's why it's so important to surrender and humble.
Yeah.
I wish people would just do this. They would just go, all right, I'm going to be vulnerable. And I'm going to look at how much I have in assets, how much I have in savings, and how much I'm personally pulling in cash flow. And you should be, Jim Rohn used to say this all the time. He goes, some people need to get a copy of their bank statement because we used to get it by the mail. And he goes, if you have people living with you, you need to take a magnetic strip and you need to take your bank statement and you need to put it up on the refrigerator. And everybody's going, how in the fuck are we surviving with you having this little money? You need to put yourself in a position where you say to yourself, I apparently fucking do not understand anything. I'm really sucking at this thing called life.
Well, now too, especially like when I see, you know, I forget, it's like Bernard something. I'm probably way off, but the guy that owns Louis Vuitton and like all of those, LVA something, right? Yeah. And that company and that man have become one of the most wealthiest in the entire world. And
he's been number one a couple of times. He sells luxury products. Everything it's all name brand.
Yes.
Bernard Arnault.
We're in subtly like a recession almost. Like a little bit, right? Not quite teetered over yet. We're on our way. But the subtle amount even. And then looking at him and going, how the fuck who's buying luxury products when they have no money? And then you look at the credit rates of people that have debt. And then you look at the amount of loans that have come out and the interest rates. And it all starts to make sense.
And government money. I've always wanted to buy a Louis Vuitton, and the government sent me a couple $1,000 for my kids.
Well, I was going to say
$2,000 for myself.
That's an element of it. But I think like when I really look at it, it's become we're so distanced from like the shit that we're talking about in our minds that it's like, okay, I need this, so then people think this of me, or I need this, so people think this of me. You only get those brands and that amount of debt and those amount of things by people buying shit that they don't need to impress people that they probably don't care about. And
those people don't care about them.
And they're putting it on credit. They're doing all of this shit that they can to appease and to look popular. And get this, it's even extended now to high school. Right? So now even high school kids have to have you wearing Gucci shit. And so their parents have to come up with hundreds, and then they turn 18 and then they get that shit in the mail now that you used to not have because you didn't have a credit score, but now it doesn't matter anymore. So they're sending you mail going, hey, you know, take out a loan, pay it in 4, you can pay it in 4, right? Pay it in 4 payments with a little bit of interest. And you start seeing all of these things come up. And I saw this thing today, you guys, that like blew my mind. Apple, when they came out with the Vision headset, and they've been doing this for a bit, have the ability to take out a pay it in 4 or pay it in a certain amount of payments, right? Did you guys know that over 60% of their business now is done that way through those loans? Which
Holy
means
cow.
almost everything that Apple sells now, people are putting on credit to buy.
Amazon's the same way now.
Yes, you can pay it in full, get our credit card, do whatever. And
Yeah.
so if you guys don't think as income goes down and debt goes up, that teeter-totter doesn't eventually flip, of course it will. That's an inevitability. But the funny thing about it is that comes from a place of us all being disconnected from actually whatever the fuck we really want, right?
Amen. Yeah,
Because we're now
amen.
trying to seek that out constantly in one another and constantly from ads and whatever else. And so that's why I think we're so militant sometimes in talking about this shit, is because
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here telling you guys I'm not that person. I'm surrounded by technology and shit that I do not need to do what I do. That I put on credit too to do what I do. And it's
the
like
goal of
similar, right?
always a
So
capitalistic system is always been consumerism.
Well,
And
look what
yeah.
Microsoft has done with its programs. Okay, the Office suite. I look at this as a classic example, and even other companies now are
Adobe.
doing that.
How dare you?
Yeah, Adobe with the subscription models, where okay, they used to be able to buy the program, and then maybe get one or two updates, and then you got to buy the next program. So what did they come up with? They said, you know what? Instead of this, let's get a continuous stream of income. Let's go ahead and put everything on subscription model. Okay, so now you can't buy the Microsoft Office suite. You can't buy the Adobe Creative Suite. You have to
Lease
lease
it.
or rent it at this price monthly. Now, you can get a discount if you buy a full year, or you can pay it in monthly increments that are a little bit more. So it's like you're buying a car.
And when you
But
buy stuff with debt or get a loan, this won't
yeah,
surprise you. You didn't buy it with your stuff, so you don't technically own it. Technically you
and
do.
that's exactly
But
it. The
that's
only
because
thing that
of thankfully the laws that exist with credit card debt and shit in the United States that they can't take it
Right.
away from you. But that is the case, and they can with certain loans. You get a mortgage and you don't pay it, the bank's gonna come get your house. You know what I mean?
or
And
car.
so yes, and so I think at this stage
That's the fastest way to get back on your feet is miss a
just have
couple of car payments.
right, because then you're walking. Right, exactly.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
So like when I think about this type of stuff and I think about it myself, I go, where in my own life have I been going, oh, I need this, or this is the next thing that I need to take the next step in my life that I want. That's always now in my awareness that's me making excuses for not actually doing those things. I'm always
Do you
setting.
need it is the other question too.
Of course not. I almost bought a $100 HDMI cord the other day so I could run it into the other room because I'm like, well, if I stream VR games as I'm playing on Twitch, it's easier to do that in the living room than it is here. So I need this long extension cord. And I got it in my Amazon cart and I'm like, buy the fucking cord when you actually do that stream. Why are you buying it now? You're not going to do it anytime soon. And this is the type of stuff, right? Where you
Yeah.
you catch yourself. And I think we all do it, but awareness of it is like the most important part, and that's why it's like I don't mind being honest and sharing with you guys that, because it's like I'm not just sitting here beating you guys up being like be better. It's like, no, we all need to be better for ourselves, right? So
But it's that thanks for sharing that, Matt, because it really does come down to, if you're consistently in your mind always say that you could fill in the blank if only you had fill in the blank. It's just one of the traps that we constantly fall in. I'm missing the missing link. I'm not saying the magic words. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. So if we're constantly in the consumer mentality that we're a book away, we're a course away, we're a coach away, you know what I mean? Because that's where that thing, I love that statement. The magic in the life that in our life is the things that we avoid doing. The magic that is in every area of our life is missing because we're avoiding the things we know we should do. And everyone always says, I don't know what to do. Yes, you do. Because if you just asked yourself, okay, if I'm, if someone said to me the way to make $5 million a year, right, is I could instantly make $5 million a year. But what I need to do is I need to sell luxury boats. Hey, there's people that sell yachts. There's people that sell,
Houses.
personal jets. There's salespeople for Gulfstream. They just came out with their new 75 G75, and it's only $65 million for the base model. I think that if you sold one $65 million plane, I think that your commission's probably pretty good. I'm just guessing.
Well,
And
what about the guy
maybe,
that sold you your Rolls Royce, Robert?
yeah, believe it or not, he only made $500.
Okay.
They totally destroyed the car industry. You could buy a 211,000 Escalade, and Clark would make $500, or he could sell us a used one and he gets $500. It's like, so it used to be based on the commission structure. Not getting off track, but now with that new law coming into effect July 1st, do you know that no longer can real estate agents just charge you 6%? So it's 3% to the broker and 3% to the agent. Effective July 1st in the United States, you get to negotiate what percentage they get off the loan.
And that means competitiveness, which means you're
Yeah.
going to go for the person that gives you the best percentage.
So it's just not automatically 3%, 3%. You now have to go out and find real estate agents and say, hey, I'm only going to pay you 1%.
Well, I know
I
a lot of people that jumped into real estate because of that. And because of the thought that it's like, well, I'm good at marketing. So if I just jump in and do my real estate license, then I can just go sell houses and market houses. Like, how easy.
Right.
And then, I live in Irvine, California. I can't even tell you guys, this is like probably the mecca of technology in Southern California outside LA, right? And people and businesses are moving and closing at such an exponential rate here. I don't know who they're going to sell these apartments and houses to. You know what I mean?
How many of those buildings right around you, Matt, are empty?
A lot of my neighbors don't live here anymore.
Well, and I'm not talking about neighbors as in residents. I'm talking about businesses.
Yes. Well, yeah, of course. There's many businesses now that have gone all online. They're remote. Most people don't want to work, especially from my generation. They don't want to work. So work online, you know what I mean? To a certain extent. So I think, it always comes down to personal responsibility, regardless if shit around you isn't going well. I'm just a firm believer that if you take personal responsibility for your own situation almost all the time, that you're going to come out on the other side much better. If you and don't beat yourself up about it, look at it as wisdom, look at it as a learning experience. Go, man, I made a lot of mistakes, learning experiences, and I'm just not going to do that anymore. Me and Hannah do not plan on staying in Irvine for another year. We're moving as well to another place. So similar, we're looking around and we're going, we don't get enough for our money here. Let's move somewhere where we get a lot more. We want a house. We want these things. We want to have space. You know what I mean? Less people and stuff like that. And so you figure that out. When we first moved here, it was 3 years ago. We were younger and we went, we're so close to everything. There's so many people around. And these were like exciting things because I moved from Billings, Montana, population 100,000, whole city. And we're talking, the city is how many miles do you think Billings is? If you talk to West End all the way to the Heights.
5
miles long. So 100,000 people in 5 miles, right? And this is spread out land. So it's like, you didn't really have a lot of people. And me and Hannah were kind of excited that we had so many options. Yeah. You could walk and do all these things. Now we're older. I don't like having people around me all the time. I would prefer space. I'd prefer to be able to go and walk my dogs without having to walk by like 20 other people with their dogs that are trying to attack my dogs. I would prefer that. So yeah, that's kind of where I am at this point. But you accept that about yourself and you go, in the past, I wasn't wrong for what I thought that time. It was just what I was at that time. Now I'm no longer that. Time to move. Time to move on.
I feel like, again, like that's everything in life. So we consistently hang on to ideas instead of challenging those ideas. It's like, I was telling, there was one of the people that I talked to, me and Josh Wagle were having a great conversation. And I said, and he goes, yeah, he said, it's whether or not you believe in what you're doing. And you know that you believe in what you're doing when you get results from that. All right. And so for me personally, there's never a doubt in my mind that I'm going to find the right people at the right time. Never, ever, ever, ever. I've been doing this for 37 years, and I now know I could sell anything because I would find the people. I would find the people. That was the joke. The joke is like, well, what if you just sold, yachts for $30 million? It wouldn't take me long to find the avatars that would get me to the people. And I would tell them, and here's where, I guess it runs in my DNA that I wish I could get in other people's DNA. I don't mind connecting with people and making them feel better now than before they knew me, enough to build their trust on purpose, to ask them, hey, do you know of anyone that could afford a yacht? Do you know of anyone that can chat? And I'm telling you, I would get referrals from people and I would sell yachts and jets because I understand the importance of connection. I understand the importance of building getting people to know, like, and trust me so they feel comfortable enough. And I'm also not greedy. So I would be the individual that would go, hey, Matt, if I get Craig to buy this jet, I'm kicking you back some cash, man. Who do you know? And so when I was
Yeah.
networking and when I really got good at this, and I guess close to mastery, is when the next thing I know, I'm sitting with Phil Fisher, a multi-billionaire in the Fisher building on Fisher Boulevard. That's when you know that you're finding the people that know people that know people. And the first presentation I did for him was at the Michigan. It was it'll click with me anyway in a second. But it was the yacht club. I was at a yacht club doing a presentation to a bunch of yacht owners. And the next day I meet this guy named Brian Baker. And Brian Baker was on the team for the U.S. team for the America's Cup. So I got to go out on the sales ship that Rich DeVos paid $1 billion to win the America's Cup in sailing. And so these things have happened to me. I met a guy, you've heard of Dave Thomas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, before Wendy's, that he named after his daughter, the people don't know that Dave Thomas invented outside show theaters, drive-ins.
Oh, drive-in movies.
He invented drive-in movies.
Oh.
So now you go from one person to one person to one person that all live in an area, and that's called networking. And it's like, I now know that anything that I wanted to do for myself and my family or someone else is like, listen, my deal is to get you to trust your ability, that people that know people, that whole Kevin Bacon game. If I truly believe
6 degrees of separation. Yeah.
And Matt, you should AI that really quick.
Sure.
In this day and age, it used to be called 6 degrees of separation.
From Kevin Bacon.
Because, yeah. I'm just asking. The question would be.
Oh, in general.
No, the question would be, is I don't think it's 6 anymore.
Well, yeah, with the internet, you'd have to assume it's probably.
Internet and everything being worldwide, to think that we're probably 3 degrees or 4 degrees away from you knowing someone that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows Donald Trump personally or Biden personally.
Well, even going back to what we said earlier, Donald Trump, regardless of what you think about him, if you look up Donald Trump, The Power of Positive Thinking, that dude relies on that book and says that book was like one of the reasons that he feels like he can just do anything that he wants, right? And
Matt,
who's
did you
to
know
say that
this
he
story?
doesn't, right? He kind of does, but
yeah. Matt, do you know this story? that I believe it was William Clement Stone.
Okay.
No, Vincent Peale, or what is it? Vincent.
Vincent Norman Peale.
Yeah. When Donald Trump was a kid, the church he went to, this guy was giving the sermon.
Yep. The dude that wrote the book. Right. I heard that. Yeah.
So you're hanging around your dad and people that make money, and you go to the church and this guy's standing up there saying that you can be anything you want to be as long as you believe in it.
Yep. ChatGPT says that most people are 2.9 degrees away from Kevin Bacon now. So
See?
instead of 6, it's 2.9. You're only 2 or 3 people away from knowing Kevin Bacon. I love
that
stuff. Yeah, I do too, because it just goes to show, like, and I say this about AI too, but it's like, okay, if you want to see something that continues to show up and like breaks all your excuses down and the barriers down for why, like everything that I did with ChatGPT to build a campaign requires just knowledge of what you want to do or having somebody that does, you know,
or knowing somebody who does. Yeah.
And you were talking about
or
that.
Eventually just GPT will do it. You'll say, this is my goal. Yeah.
And so this is why I'm so optimistic in life. You know, whether you believe in a higher power or not, you know, I know that the master creator got Mark Zuckerberg and a few other people to just put 2.9 billion active people all in one fucking place for me. Because years ago, I only could meet people face to face or belly button to belly button. And all of a sudden people come out like MySpace and then Facebook and then Instagram and TikTok. And there's Chat GPT. There's now hundreds of millions of people in one fucking place. And I have to be creative enough to get them to want to talk to me? Really?
Yeah, it's just the connection part, right? And like I feel like connection and communication, we obviously could do like a whole podcast on that, but it's something that we talk about a lot too in our inner circle and imaginators groups, which you guys can find if you click the join button below here if you're not part of it, or go to roberthollis.com/join. We do like a lot of great stuff over there.
Inner circle and imaginators are only for people that believe that they could actually learn from someone and take their life to a higher level. If you're the kind of person that's a negative Nancy or whatever, you know, sorry for the Nancys out there, you know, but
poor Nancy,
you know,
or Karen's, but
it's like, when I heard the name of that girl that ran over her boyfriend, that was a cop, and her name was Karen. That I don't know how she can win. I really do.
Some would say she lost from the start. Yeah. The dice landed most of the way.
This lady was pissed off and ran over him in the truck and let him freeze in a friend's yard. Her name is Karen. Of course it is.
Now all the Karens are like, wait.
Oh, yeah, it's bad.
Hey, I have a pretty common name. You do too, Dad. So
yeah.
Matt and Robert. I've ran into a lot of Roberts. I've run into a lot of Matts. So
I got a lot of Craigs, man.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I Google our names and it's like there's like 10 people that are famous from doing shit. I'm like, Jesus.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that was interesting. If you want to just take that little side tangent, Robert, about the Craig.
Yeah.
I barely would find Craigs. I'd find a lot of Gregs. Okay.
Close, but not Craigs.
Yeah, right. But until I worked at a radio station in Fresno where there were 3 Craigs and 2 Gregs.
Sounds like a Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah. It was like, okay, who's who is who here?
3 Craigs and 2 Gregs.
Yeah.
See, I love creative people that are making life funny. Don't you guys? It's like
it should be fun.
I seen a graphic when I was in Cabo where it was Waldo.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his phone and it was saying, will you please allow us to be able to, you know, find where you are, your location? He's like,
that's great. Yeah. Allow us to track your location. He's like, uh-oh. The downfall.
Allow us to find
the eyes
your
go back and forth going,
I've
Yeah,
actually
Waldo,
seen people,
like,
you know, you could take photos with ChatGPT. I've seen people take pictures of Where's Waldo books and be like, hey, GPT, where's Waldo? And it's like, right here. It's like, shit, he can't even hide anymore, man. The AI is
nah,
chasing after him.
oh my
So
God.
I'm looking right now. We're just about 2 hours in. So if you guys feel good,
No,
let's wrap it up. I like to keep these under 2 hours, but this has been
well,
amazing. I love having you back,
why
Dad.
don't you guys finish with a final word, and then I'll see if I can lock into that
You know,
mastermind.
you got something brewing.
Yeah.
Craig, do you have anything you want to share?
No, I think I've shared pretty much what I wanted to, except, the fact that it's just a matter of are you where you want to be right now? And if you're not, step out of the box and start doing what you want. And I know that we've said this in previous podcasts. Don't cut off your nose to spite your face, especially if that is your income, but get out of that rut. And you shared that very much, Robert, in other videos and podcasts. Get out of that rut, start working to where you want to be, step out of the box, open your mind, see what's out there and see what aligns with you. I think that is, in a nutshell, what we have kind of been talking about.
Yeah.
Not only today in the podcast, but in general.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Craig. I think a lot of the times it's like, and this, I can say this from my own experience, but like a lot of times you sit in a place where you're like waiting for the right time or the right thing or the right situation. And it's so funny how I can have someone like my dad who's constantly making stuff, and I'm the one like a part of it, you know what I mean? And then it will take one video still to this day, even though it's something that you can say to me a million times, Dad, right place, right time. And I can watch a video by you going, here's how to trust yourself, or why you don't trust yourself, or how to get to that place. And that video was a reminder that inspired me, inspiration to talk to everybody else about their inspirations. Because truth be told, at that moment, I really like needed that piece of advice, because I was trusting myself in some areas and not trusting myself in others. And going back to what I shared earlier in this podcast, that came from a lack of belief in what I wanted and who I wanted to be for myself, not for everybody else, but for myself. And once I sat down and started to journal about that and started to really think about that and get in a meditative state about that, the amount of excitement and warmth that came to my body. And then it's like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do. And then my dad gets home from his vacation, right place, right time, starts sending me all of these videos by Robert Greene on mastery about how you need to go after the thing that you know what you want to do. And if you don't know what that thing is, take 20 minutes a day and journal about it. Because you had that as a kid, you may, or as a teenager or whatever it may have been, when you were younger, you might have had that inspiration or that whisper about what you wanted to do. And the crazy thing about me is I already know what that is. Like, I've known I wanted to be a storyteller since I was a little kid. So it takes those videos, right place, right time, and trusting myself to then go, shit, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So let's do it. And that's where the excitement about life comes from. That's where the optimism comes from. That's where all... And so now even the work stuff that I'm doing that's not directly connected to that, without a shadow of a doubt, is being made better because of my excitement and wanting to tell stories there, wanting to do more with that. And so that permeates to the people in your life, and it permeates to the things that you're working on. And it's crazy because it's like a garden. It's like as things grow, all things start growing. It's like they're all getting healthy at the same time. And if I had like one piece of thing to share at the end of this, it's just to take the time to do that. And I know I hark on this a lot, and I'll say, take the time to get to know yourself, like journal and think of what inspires you, what you want to be, you don't have to take it that far out. Just think of what you are and try your best not to be negative about it. Try to be positive. This isn't a pro and cons list about yourself. This is an inspiration list about yourself, what you actually want to be doing with this gift that we all have here. Some people think it's a curse, whatever day it is. I might think it's a gift. I might think it's a curse. I think we've all been there, but that's what I would share. Like a last word is just try your best to like set that time aside to figure out who you are and what inspires you, because we're going through so much change here, so many things that are happening, but what is stable through all that change, what can be your foundation, is yourself. And if you don't have that, that's why it feels so unsteady all the time. So
Man, great words. Great words. Yeah, the only thing I have to add on that is again, years ago, 37 years ago, still the number one thing that I get out of the greatest miracle in the world is proclaim your uniqueness. It's like when I started realizing each and every day, because think about this, if you really realize, according to your DNA and who you are, how unique you are, just how unique you are, then you immediately find out that nobody else's journey is the same as yours. So we spend all of our life trying to get people, to like us, appreciate us, you know, uh, tell us that we're good people. When a majority of the people that watch this video recorded, if you were like had a gun held to your head and you were told, listen, you need to explain in detail who the fuck you are, and you're going to die. You're going to die because you've been faking so long. You've been doing this shit for certain people, and you're a people pleaser, and you're this kind of mate, and you're this kind of parent. You're this kind of job worker. You're all of this shit, and you don't even know who you are anymore. So how do I know this? 37 years of asking people, hey, tell me what you want. What is the most important thing that you want right now in your life? And the number one answer is, I don't know. It's the saddest fucking statement I have ever heard, because I'm not bragging, but if someone pulled a gun to my head, I can tell you in milliseconds what I'm going to do. So people mess up with their passion, and I don't know what my purpose is, and I don't know what I want. Here's something simple that I can tell every one of you is the only thing I know. The only thing I know that gives you joy in the process to hitting these happiness moments in your life is the service of many is the only way to greatness. So if you look at anyone out there, whether it's Walmart or Microsoft or Apple or Amazon, these people figured out a way to get people shit that they want. It's impossible. It's impossible not to succeed if you can figure out a way to serve other people. So what do they got it? They got it all messed up. It's like, no, what's going to serve me? What's fucking in it for me? Instead of thinking about how to make all these tools that Matt's excited about. There's a group of people that are sitting around going, with AI, how can we fucking allow these storytellers to tell their story and get pumped up about it? And so for me, I have a way that I know based on what I've learned on how to help people find what they want. When they know what they want and they now don't rely on anybody but their self to find people that are inspiring, that have already done it. See, to me, I get pissed off at people. We live in an age where I don't give a shit what you think and gives you joy. I think of people like Bob Ross. I just like fucking painting. That's all I like to do is show people how to paint. Well, can you do that on a public broadcasting thing? It's like Bob Ross is known worldwide because he loves to show people how to paint. What do? I paint and I show people how easy it is to paint. What is he really teaching them, Matt? He's teaching people that didn't believe that they had a creative bone in their fucking body. And he showed them how to create.
Yeah. And he would always talk about how none of those things were mistakes. That when something happens, it's okay to accept it as, like, he used to have the saying, happy little accident. Like, it's just, that's the way that he perceived life. And when he'd show up, it wasn't just showing that creative stuff, but it's also showing that, yeah, when things don't go your way, that's perfectly fine. Like, life comes at you the way that it comes at you. Relax. And I think we could all use that reminder from time to time, especially now. Like we said, the presidential debate is tomorrow. So we're like,
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that are tense about tomorrow. Me, I'm excited.
Well,
but
it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference what either one of these people say. There's going to be a group of people that are going to say, I just see a better future with this person. That's all it comes down to.
It's as easy as that.
Because why are we so hopeful? I'll throw someone under the bus for the last word here. But there's a guy here named John Tester that's been our Democratic senator from the state of Montana, right? And the commercials that he's running now after being in office for 18 years. Here's his thing. I'm going to make sure that Biden listens to me this time. And I'm going to do it for the people of Montana. Well, what are the other ads running? You know, you've been in office for 18 years and haven't done shit. Get the hell out. But then there's the other group. There's always we always drill on one negative or one positive. So guess which ones would make me vote for this guy? Since he's been in office in Montana, we have more veterans hospitals and clinics in the state of Montana than any other state per capita. So now he's standing in front of a lot of people that are veterans and they're going, John Tester is my freaking man. This guy, we had nothing for veterans here. Now we have everything for veterans here. And it's like, damn, you know? So maybe he hasn't done very well in these other things with the economy and stuff because he's a Democrat. But, you know, wait a minute. As a Democrat, he did more for veterans than any other person that served the state of Montana. See what I mean? It's like, so when you get all these people out there that are just full of shit and lying about each other, man, it's, you know, do I think that Biden has done anything with his life? Hell yeah, I do. But the people that say that Donald Trump hasn't done anything in his life. You're pretty much retarded if you think that. Because you could do a marketing course on just how to be a president of the United States and be the worst person on the planet. I think I can learn from this guy.
Well, that's the thing is like a lot of people don't think about, and I've said this before, and I know we want to wrap this up, but I'll just say this, but it's like, you can learn from everybody.
Yeah,
right?
You can.
And I think the moment that you start closing yourself off based off of what you think or feel, to learning from anybody, regardless if you hate them or if you love them, man, dude, you're going to have a pretty biased life. And that's going to be very difficult because as you live your life with bias, which I've done, you just become who you hang around. And it's just like, if you have a political bias, at least at this point, like obviously I think everybody has somewhat of a political bias, but I've realized that the best thing for my life is just to disconnect and be creative, do whatever the hell I want to do. And whoever gets in is going to do whatever the hell they're going to do. And that's just the way that I feel about it now. And you could say to me, I'm insane. You could say to me that I'm nuts for like not believing in democracy or not believing in this or that. But like I was sharing with Craig before we got on here, I've been an adult since Obama was president. The only thing that I've known in this political thing is that if you don't elect this guy, the world is going to end. I don't know he has just a disagreement in politics. I didn't grow up in a world, you guys, where it wasn't all or nothing if you picked the other side. So yes, when Obama was in there, I remember the South Park episode that came out the night that he won. Because they made one if one won or one if the other one won. And the whole episode was about how everyone that wanted John McCain to win was getting in the bunker because Obama was going to destroy the United States and the earth. He was the Antichrist or whatever, right? 8 years and it didn't happen. Some people go, oh, he did in some ways, right? Bullshit. And then similar with Trump. When Trump came in after Obama, I was part of the camp going, this dude's going to destroy America, destroy the United States. And honestly, I was so young and so naive to think that one person could destroy fucking anything that have to do with this process. Because the truth is that this is a process we're all going through. And as I expand time and look at history, even in the United States, You could take the civil rights movement. You could take the Vietnam Wars. You could take anything. There was always moments in time in history where everybody thought things were going to be severely bad, went through growing pains, and came out on the other side of it a little bit better. It's just the thing that people don't realize is that progress is slow and not immediate. It took us thousands of years to get away from a monarchy. Thousands of years to get away from a monarchy. For a group of people to go, dude, I don't like this anymore. You know what? I prefer to own my own property. I prefer to own my own business, all these things. And they had a different idea and fought for it, died for it, whatever you may say. I still think that that exists in the heart of what's going on, regardless if people say there's going to be a civil war or whatever. I think have the civil war come out on the other side of it better, if that's the way that it needs to be. But
I still love the statement. I still love the statement that a drowning person's no help to a drowning person. Right. There's a bunch of people out there that won't take the time, like Matt said, to figure out what you want. Then find out the people that are online that are now inspired to tell you exactly the way it is. Now it's like there's so many podcasts out there. There's so many things out there that if I want to learn something, I very simply can think about it. And we understand there's a thing called algorithms now. I can think about it and say something to my wife, and now I'm on a podcast and the guy's telling me exactly what I needed to fucking hear. I mean, we live in a pretty miraculous world right now. And so the one thing that I know since I've been an entrepreneur is that I've done better under every new president that's elected.
Right.
Why? Because of my focus. My focus now is like, hey, how can I more efficiently impact more people faster than I ever have? I'm now looking in my prime years, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and I know I got 40 years left. How many people can I impact, and how fast can I do it? How fast can I get the little nuggets in their head to get them to go, holy shit, you mean I actually have control of my destiny? I can actually create my own economy. I can actually create my own environment. You know, so it doesn't make a difference how bad this country gets. I will adapt and change and move to a country that's better.
It's interesting because I know we're going on rants here, and I want Craig to have a chance to speak on any of this if he wants to. But
no, I'm fine with, I mean, I've said pretty much what I will say at this point. And it's interesting. Obviously, I mean, we can continue this conversation, of course, on another podcast.
I think that would probably be a good idea, because we're going to come off of all of whatever's going to happen tomorrow and all the shit that's going to come from that and everything. So I'm sure it'll be on our minds. But it's definitely something that I wanted to address, I guess, because we brought it up. Only because I think a lot of people will watch this and then that will happen tomorrow, and then they'll forget this. They'll go right back to that default thing of like, this guy said this, or this guy said that, or this or that. And it's like, dude, what about what you're saying? What about what you're doing? What about what you want to do? And
that's where it comes back down to. Exactly.
Right. Let's not focus so much on these dudes. Right.
There you go, Robert. Focus.
There you go.
Where's your focus?
Love and appreciate you guys. This was an amazing podcast. Welcome back, Dad, to the United States.
Glad to be back.
Welcome back.
Glad to be back.
And
great to have everybody, both of you here. And
I just need to let you guys know that I think the next place that I'm going to is Dubai. I'd like you guys to go with me.
Dubai. I'll have to think about that. It's like funny going back to certain places to go. That's not on like my top 5 of my list, but it's interesting. When you talk about Greece, I'm like, dude, that's my space. I'll go to Greece.
Okay. Well, we can go anywhere. We can go anywhere we want to.
Right. Bring me somewheres, like when they say, how often do you think of the Roman Empire or shit like that? I'm like one of those historians, and my tattoo artist
aren't those Romans and not Greeks, right?
Italy. That's why I said Italy.
Italy.
Yeah. So Greece and Italy, they're close enough.
Similar. Yeah. Similar.
Pretty close to each other. So
yeah, sort of like
I can visit them both.
Montana. Yeah.
Yeah,
you basically are the
Montana
same.
and California, of course.
Right. Same accents. Still.
All right. I love you guys. I appreciate you.
Love you too.
Love you, Matt. Love you, Robert. Yes, and
Thanks for
you can
that.
follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. Also, if you'd like to join our exclusive communities, as we have mentioned during this podcast, the Inner Circle and Imaginators, you can join us by going to roberthollis.com/join to register. There will be lots of great exclusive content, and you'll be able to participate in our special breakthrough sessions to help you move on to the next level. Please don't forget to share this video with others, and of course, like it as well by clicking the like button. It will help us grow our community and reach those with ears that hear. Thank you, and shout out to our executive producer and visionaire, Matt Hollis. Matt, my friend, bless you and thank you. And of
Bless
course,
you too.
our GPS to success, Robert Hollis, for everything that we are doing. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. We appreciate you, we love you, and we're glad to have you on this journey with us. My name is Craig A. Jackman. Please be good to yourselves, be cash, and until next time, bye for now.
Thanks, everybody. Love and appreciate you guys. Thanks,
Love and
Dad.
appreciate
Thanks,
you
Craig.
guys. Bye-bye.